This is Gemara in Eruvin, Daf Kof Daled. Shabbos is Daf, the second to last Daf in Eruvin. Today's shir should be Chos for Shlema. For the Meir ben Yakir, Men ben Vigel Chaim and Sarshlam Simon Reizel Sar Paskinandi Basim Chaisar Chaim Sarasi Yisol ben Mindel. It is the President Shavalei Shalom Baznami Bashavig of Shir Chanan Faldav ben Riva, Daniel ben Chana Reizel, Rivka Gittel Baznami, Leba Bracha, Leba Bracha Bastebia Musa, Avraham Svi ben Masha Esther. We pick it up in the bottom of Kuf Gimel Amid Beis. We're up to the Lishna Achrina as we finish off this machlekes regarding this chatzitza that the Kohen had in his hand when he's going to Avodah. Says the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom of Kuf Gimel Amid Beis, Lishna Achrina. Lishna Achrina says the Gemara. 1 second, we're having here we go. Lishna Achrina. Amar lei, Amar Amri lei, Amar Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Chiyah Loishanu ele gemi. That only a gemi, only the reed, the kohen is allowed to put in his finger or anywhere else in his body where he has this cut. But if he has this tziltzal cut, the small belt, then it's going to be chaytzeitz between the fact that he's doing the avodah. You're not allowed to separate between the avodah and his body. Rav Yochanan Amar lo yamru chatzitza b'achas mishal shal shalish. Rav Yochanan argues there's no din of chatzitza when it's less than 3 by 3. A din that we've seen many times, 3 fingers by 3 fingers is the minimum size for a garment, and therefore the minimum size for chatzitza, says Rav Yochanan. Ella b'makim begadim, where you're wearing clothing. Avashlei b'makim begadim, places that you don't wear clothing, like in your arm or something like that, your hand. Then shalish shal shalish chaytzatzes pachas b'shal shal shalish einei chaytzatzes. So this whole din is only going to be in a place where you wear clothing. And says the Gemara, V'hainu d'Rava, and this is actually exactly what Rava said on Rav Chisda. That's where he got the difference between whether it's a place where you wear clothing and a place where you do not wear clothing. Says the Gemara, Lema, comes out he's arguing on Rav Yehuda, which is the first opinion that we started off the Gemara with. Answers the Gemara, Shiny Tziltzal the Chashav. No, again, a similar answer that we said before. The Shilshul Katan, this small bandage, is different because it's Chashav, it's an item by itself. That's the reason why that violates the Avodah. Rav Yochanan, Ad Beshinan, Gabe Gemi Lishmin and Tziltzal Katan. Why do Rav Yochanan teach his din by this Gemi, by the reed? Again, we have a kohen with a cut, and he's coming to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. We're saying he's not allowed to. Why do Rav Yochanan say he has a Gemi? He ties his reed around his finger. Why did he say by the Tziltzal Katan if he holds its mother? Says the Gemara, most of the Gemi Masi. He's teaching you some medicine advice. He's teaching you a sidebar din that a gemi also is a refuah, and that's the reason why he said a din about a gemi. Says the Mishnah, you're allowed to sprinkle salt on the ramp of the Mizbeach. The ramp was slippery, there's blood all over the place. They would sprinkle salt in it to make it smooth, give it some grip, so that the Kehanim do not fall. And number 2 says the Mishnah Malam Mibarak Goylu that fill from the bar Goylu Mibarak Gadol Begilgul B'Shabbos. We'll have to see exactly what that means. Mibarak Har B'Yantiv from the Barak Har on Yantiv. Again, we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what these things mean. But says the Gemara, the first part of the Mishnah said you'll have to sprinkle salt on the kevesh on the ramp. Ramalei Ravi Kami Portion Rani Ala Rava. So now we learn to the Mishnah. Sounds like the din is only the Beis Hamikdash. What's the stira? Contradiction. You have a chatz, you have a courtyard that's all echi from the rain. Says this brisa, maybe Tevin Umar Duba, you're allowed to put Tevin and you're allowed to put it on the ground. Why are you allowed to spread out the straw? Seemingly just like you're not allowed to spread out the salt, Bim Medina outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You should not be allowed to spread out the straw. Says the Gemara, Shiny Tevin, no, because the Tevin you don't actually leave there. And therefore, with the salt you actually leave there, it becomes part of the ground. That's why we think it's forbidden. But the straw you don't leave there, you give it to your animals as food. Therefore, it's going to be permitted. What exactly is the case? If you're telling me that you're mavatel, you nullify, you leave it there on the ramp of the Mizbeach, how can you do that? You're adding on to a building, not a building, onto the kelim. That the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash of the Mishkan were precise. God told us how to do that. Miyad Hashem. We can't go add on something. So if we put a layer of salt and we want it to stay there, in essence, you're adding on. Says the Gemara, fine. And if you don't leave it there, it's a chatzitza. The kohen's walking. Kohanim don't wear shoes, don't wear socks, because they have to step on the floor. They can't be a chatzitza. It can't be anything interposing between their body and the Beis Hamikdash. So now there's salt there. Answers the Gemara by Lechas Aaron the Kavesh. We're discussing bringing up the different limbs, which is not an avodah, and that's the reason why it's not a problem. So they would sprinkle the salt at the end of the day before they brought the ivarim to burn them on the mizbeach, and that's not a problem. It's not a real avodah. Says the Gemara, "V'lo is not real avodah." But the pasuk says, "V'hakre v'hakoyin is hakol v'iktir mizbecha." V'amar mar. What do we learn out from this pasuk? Zuay lechas evarim lekevesh. This is talking about the case of bringing up the Ivarim. So why are you telling me that it's not an Avodah? You know what the case is? The case is when they're bringing up the wood to burn on top of the base Hamikdash, on top of the Mizbeach. That is not an Avodah, the Avodah, and that's why you're allowed to put salt. So Gemara right now is saying you're not mevatel the salt there. It's not a chatzitza because you're not doing it for an Avodah. Continues the Gemara. Darash Rava. Rava Darshid. Chatzar sheniskalkula bimei geshamim. If you have a courtyard, they got all rained on during the rainy season. Maybe tevin umardaba. You allowed to put down straw. Amrle Rapapa Rava. So Rapapa asked Rava, how could he tell me that you allowed to put down straw in your field that's all rainy? Batanya. That when you allowed to spread out the straw, you only allowed to spread it out from a basket, from a box. But you're not allowed to take it from a basket or box. Rather, you have to take it from a broken box, meaning, because we're problem often the chol to do it in a normal weekday manner, says Rashi. So why are you telling me that you're allowed to spread out the straw without any limitations? Seemingly this price says otherwise. Rava said, it's really Amarayim, Medarish, Tavarim, Shamarti, Lefnechem, Talisim, Yadi, I made a mistake. Param, however, he's being chayzer. You're correct. You can't just spread out the straw without any cheshbon, without any thought. You can only do it in an abnormal manner from this broken box. Because if not, it's the regular way that you're doing it during the week. And we continue in the Mishnah. 4 lines for the white lines. The Mishnah taught us that you're allowed to fill up from the bar Goyla. Says Gemara, Ula ikla beira Menashe asa hu gavra tarif habava. Ula went to visit Menashe, and so it came and banged on the door. Knock, knock. Amar man hay litzchol gufeit kamachole Shabbata. Who is this person that's being over on Shabbos, playing instruments, making noise, banging on the door on Shabbos? Amrli Rabba responded, Loi asru ala kol shel shir. What do you mean? That's not music. He's just banging on the door. And what's forbidden to be done on Shabbos? Kol shel shir. Okay, so step number 1 is the Gemara thought it's usher to bang on the door. The Gemara says no, only kol shel shir is forbidden. Eisvei, the Gemara goes further. Eisvei Abaye, ma'alin b'diyubeyu me'tipen mi'arik l'chayla. You allowed to fill up a barrel from another barrel. And u'matipen mi'arik l'chayla b'Shabbos. And you allowed to let water drip. Rashi says some sort of vessel with holes in the bottom and a cork on top. And they pulled out the cork and the water went through and it would sound like rain, like a primitive noise machine. You're allowed to do that for a chayla on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, what's obvious diuk? What's obvious inference? L'chayla in the bari loy? That it's only mutter for a chayla. It's not mutter for anyone else. So why are you telling me that it's only usher to make music? We see regular noise. It's forbidden as well to make a rain sound. Says the Gemara, echidami. No. What's this case? This case is that the guy's sleeping and you're using this noise machine to wake him up. It's an alarm clock. It's an alarm clock. So Shema Mina, we see Alude Kaila Aser. Says the Gemara, we have a raya that to make noise is Aser. When you wake someone up, like Rashi says, it's not a pleasant rain sound. It's a noise. And a noise, that seemingly is what the Brisa said is only mutter for a chayla, not for a bari. So says the Gemara, seemingly we have a raya that to make noise in Shabbos is forbidden. And therefore, the question of the Gemara is, so why banging on the door should have been the same thing? Answers the Gemara, Loi, the tire of a kaboy delinim. The case was, he's awake and he needs to fall asleep. And if it sounds like the sound of bells, and that's the reason why it's a musical sound, that's the reason why it's usher. But the Gemara is saying, but the truth is only because it's a nice musical raining sound. But if it would just be a noise, then seemingly at this moment we think it's mutter. The Gemara continues, someone who's guarding his fruit from the birds, and he's guarding his gourd from the animals. Says the Gemara, let it watch the normal Yom Shabbos. How do you during the week, primitive scarecrows, how do you during the week scare away the animals? You would be meraked, you would dance, you would be yatafech, you would beat on your chest, you would be yisapek, you would clap. Says this Brisa, you're not allowed to do all those things on Shabbos. Why? My time explains the Brisa. Seemingly we think the reason is making noise. Again, another raya, and making noise is aser. No, it's a totally different reason. We're afraid if we let you go and make noise by the animals and whatnot, you might come pick up a rock to throw it to scare away the animals, and that is the birds. That is the reason why it's forbidden, but not because necessarily making noise is aser. So we continue. No, Women are playing with nuts. Some, nut rolling. Us, it's forbidden. My timer. Says when you know why it's usher. It's usher because the nuts bake into each other. They shake. It makes noise. So we see a raya that making noise on Shabbos is forbidden. Says Marloi, it's a different answer. That when you roll something on a dirt floor, we're afraid it's going to make a charetz, it's going to make a ditch, and you're going to smooth it out, and that's the issue. Says the Gemara, if you don't accept that reasoning, not even how to play with apples. What noise is there with an apple? There's no noise. Hella, the reason must be that's the reason, and nothing to do with making noise. So again, the Gemara has yet again defended that there's no issue primarily making noise in Shabbos. Tonight we learned that you'll have to fill up from the bar of Gaila, bar of the exile. You're not allowed to do this in the Medina. Says where you know why? My time, it makes noise when you're filling up from the well. So Gemara thinks making noise is forbidden. Says sidebar gezerah that you might come to fill up water for your garden, which is obviously forbidden on Shabbos. Allow them to fill up from this well. In Mechuza Amar Amimar explained, my time goes Rabbanan. The whole concern is that you might come to fill up for your garden, which is forbidden. We don't have any gardens, therefore we don't have to worry about it. Kim the Chaza, the Ka Taru, moving along to Amid base. But then what happened? Then Ravina saw that what they were doing? They were collecting this water, Tariba Kisna. He saw they were collecting this water and then they were soaking their flax in it. So that's too far. That you're not allowed to do in Shabbos. Here they don't fill up from these wells. Says the Gemara further, top line, Kufdalim base. Ume'er Akar, from the Kar well. What exactly is going on over here? My Be'er Akar, says the Gemara. Amar Shmuel, Bar Shekira, Olav Devarim, V'tirua. It's a well that they had like a fight and an agreement afterwards. And that's the well that you're allowed to fill up from in Shabbos. Says Mar, is that true? This is when they came from Golus. Meizvei, look at the bars like Zubilvad. Only this well they are making. Says the Gemara. V'yam shekiru dvar malel. My Zubilvad. What do you tell me this one? Of course it's this one. The one that they made the pshara. The one they made the agreement on. No, a noob shot. So I'm a be'er mayim chayim, a fresh spring, a flowing well. Shenam the pasuk says, Kehakir be'er, Kehakir bayer meimeha. That the pasuk says v'chulu, as the wellspring causes it to flow. That is the case that he was lenient to let them fill up on Shabbos. Says Maragufa, 1 second. Look at the bars like not all the wells here. Make on only this well. When the Bnei Agayla came up, they camped by the well. They stayed over there overnight. When and the Viniyim, the prophet said it's okay. You could use that well on Yantif. Says Mars, they weren't really Nevi'im. They just told them that the minhag was to do it, or not even that they told them, but rather everyone knew that their forefathers did it, and that's the reason why they were lenient, but not necessarily did it come from the mouth of a Navi. And we continue the last Mishnah on the entire Eruvin. How exciting. Sharetz, did you find the Sharetz? Creepy crawly creature, which we know, one of the Shemaina Shratzim, which is Aser makes one Tameh, Avatoma. You find it in the Beis HaMikdash. Kohen moitziu be'imane. A kohen takes it out with his sash, he takes his garment, takes his belt, wraps up this sharetz, he gets it out of the Beis HaMikdash. Shalasa toma, you don't want to keep toma in the Beis HaMikdash. Divi Rav Yechon and Broika. Rav Yudaimer, no. B'tzavah shal eitz, use a wooden tongs. Why? Shali Rabbis toma, you don't want to have toma there too long, and you don't want to proliferate the toma, I should say, and make the sash tome, so you just get rid of it with the tongs. From where would you take out a sharetz? Meaning, if you find the sharetz in the Beis HaMikdash, which locale within the Beis HaMikdash would we allow you to take out the sharetz and obviously not be worried about muksa? Says the Mishnah, min ha'echel min ha'ulam, u'mibein ha'ulam ulam mizbeach. The ha'echel and ulam, and between the ulam and the mizbeach, there is shemenanis, those areas, as we're going to see in the Gemara, maybe those areas where the Kohanim go, maybe those areas which is more tar, and those areas you'll have to remove the sharetz. Says the shemenanis. Rav Kiva Omer, Kol Magid Shechayav Al Zotani Kara, such as goes Chatas Misham Moitzim say no. Any place that's a deraisa going there tamei, you get rid of the sheretz. The difference being, Rashi points out, the azara, the women's section, the women's gallery. According to Rishim ben Anis, you would not remove it from there. You only move it from the ulam, from the heichal, from between the ulam and the zeach. However, according to Rav Akiva, it's definitely a place that's a issa deraisa to go there tamei. Says Rav Akiva, you'll move it from the azara as well. Sharkol and Mekayma, what do you do everywhere else? According to the first opinion, you don't take out the shards. So what do you do? Just let the shards run around everywhere? No. You cover it over with some sort of copper vessel, a pot, so that it maintains the toma in its place. The place where Shimon was Mako, the place that you were Mako, is a place where it's yours. They only gave it to you because it's a Shvus. What exactly this din of Shimon is talking about, the Gemara will discuss it. We'll see. This is going back on a din from 40 some odd blot ago. Let's just begin the Gemara, and then we're not going to finish the Masechta right now. We'll leave the last little bit for Sunday's daf. Amar Rav Tami bar Kisna. Amar Shmuel, Amachnes Tamei Sharetz LeMikdash Chayiv. You bring in the Sharetz. How do you bring in the Sharetz? Not by holding the Sharetz, because the brace continues. Sharetz Atzmai Potter. Okay, so you bring in the creepy crawler itself, then Asur Derabanan. You're Potter. But if you bring in Hamachnes Tamei Sharetz, Rashi says, meaning if it's in a kli, if a vessel is holding the Sharetz, then it's a Deraisa. Interesting, difficult to understand. Sharetz itself is Derabanan, the kli is going to be a Deraisa. Says the Gemara, my time, what's the reason? I'm right. So we learn from there, a sharetz cannot potentially become tar, so it's not included in the items that will be aser daraisa to bring it into the base of mikdash, whereas a kli that's holding a sharetz is. Why? Because the kli could potentially go into the mikvah and become tamei. Says Gemara, I'll bring you a proof to this. Probably kli charetz, there is a glili. So why there is a glili? Learn out for this passing, not kli charetz, my taima. Lami sham the last line of tire b'mikvah. Just like we just said. So that's when it goes into the mikvah, and that's the reason why it doesn't get this tumah on a deraisa level. Answers Gemara loy. We should ask the avatoma yatikli chareshin and ask the avatoma. It's not a raya because we can learn that the pasuk is just referring to something that becomes an avatoma, and the Kli doesn't become an avatoma. That's the reason, but not necessarily because it doesn't go get a tire in the mikvah. For when not necessarily teaches anything about the sharetz in our Mishnah, whether you bring a sharetz in a kli, whether it's a deraisa or not, we'll pick up from Lemik Tanai Sunday's daf. It could be we'll even have